My husband was away, and what my son did next will leave you in disbelief. A true tale of infidelity unfolds. Never could I have imagined that my life would take such a turn. A woman in her mid-40s finds herself alone within the elegant walls of a stunning house, cloaked in a profound sense of invisibility. My husband was always missing. His business trips stretched from days into weeks, each moment blending into the next. Upon his return, his presence appeared to bear the burden of formality instead of the embrace of a reunion. Our dialogue barely strayed from the territory of superficial banter. Years had passed since we last experienced even a hint of intimacy. I upheld a veneer of normalcy, crafted nourishing dishes, organized my surroundings, and welcomed the neighbors with a warm smile. Yet within, I found myself fading away. And the gentle warmth of early spring. My husband disclosed that he would be leaving again, this time for nearly a month. I inclined my head, pretending to grasp the meaning. In keeping with tradition, I chose to remain silent, that I refrained from participating in that action. I thought I had reconciled with this, or at the very least, I believed I had. Just a week after he left, my stepson Logan returned from college for the eagerly awaited spring break. At 22, he stood with an air of confidence, embodying politeness while consistently upholding a respectful distance. From his middle school days, I had cared for him, and as a result, our relationship had always been marked by a subtle formality. Yet now he stood as a man, and a subtle change transformed the way his gaze connected with mine. In the beginning, it bore no hint of wrongdoing, yet it stood apart from all else. I noted that his gaze lingered a moment longer than customary. His compliments, once delivered with a lightness that felt almost fleeting, now resonated with a profound sense of intimacy. "You look beautiful today," he remarked one morning in the kitchen. His voice radiated warmth. I dismissed it with a light laugh, though my heart raced within me. Our time together began to grow significantly, largely by chance. He would lend a hand with the groceries, suggest cooking dinner together, and provide companionship during those late-night television marathons. I tried to ignore the rising tension, but I was far from unaware. Every time his hand brushed against mine, every moment he stayed just a heartbeat too close. It resonated within me profoundly. As the day waned, we settled onto the porch, entranced by the stunning colors of the sunset. He conveyed his appreciation for my efforts in maintaining the family's unity, recognizing the resilience I demonstrated for his father. Words eluded me, leaving me in a state of silence. Years had passed since I last encountered such commendation. His voice held a quality, soft yet sincere, that effortlessly penetrated the defenses I had built around my heart. I looked at him and recognized something deeper than merely my stepson. A man met my eyes, a man who acknowledged my presence. That night, sleep slipped through my fingers like sand. Time and again, I found myself drawn back to our conversations. His gaze lingered on me, and I felt myself anchored in place, persuading myself that it was all innocent. Yet, beneath the surface, I was keenly conscious of the deception I concealed. This sensation, I realized, went beyond the confines of simple solitude. I had crossed an emotional threshold that I could no longer overlook. As I came across him again the next morning, the sight of his smile ignited a feeling of discomfort within me. I discovered a deep longing for that attention, that thrilling rush of being wanted, even if it was misplaced. After a prolonged stretch of time, I discovered that I was genuinely awake for the very first time. Still, an undercurrent of fear persisted within me. The moment of decision hovered before me, its significance palpable, yet I remained still, contemplating my next move. Without prompt intervention, I dreaded the thought of being unable to retreat from the approaching tempest. On a Thursday evening, the events began to unravel. The stillness of the house wrapped around all, and the air felt heavier than usual. As I finished my dinner, the rain unleashed its fury, and in an instant, the lights flickered and went out. In the quietude of a space stripped of distractions, where only the gentle flicker of candlelight offered a sense of warmth, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Logan stepped into the living room, 2 glasses of wine gently held in his hands. He presented it with a soft smile, as though he could perceive a longing. After a brief moment of reflection, I extended my hand toward the glass. We remained in stillness, the only sound being the soft rhythm of rain tapping against the windows. The wine softened my guard. Our conversation wandered through the hallways of recollections, intertwining within the fabric of feelings. He conveyed his sense of being unmoored recently, articulating appreciation for the solace of home and the security he discovered in my company. The truth enveloped me in a comforting embrace. Then he made a statement that rendered me completely motionless. It appears you might not entirely recognize the extraordinary nature of your being. Do you? I looked at him, utterly perplexed. Still, he maintained my gaze without faltering. You deserve someone who genuinely sees your true self, he continued, a person who awakens the energy that resides within you. My heart surged with fervor. An impulse surged within me to dismiss it, to express that this was entirely inappropriate. Nevertheless, I held back. His words seeped into the very fabric of my thoughts. A deep longing for affection stirred within me, an insatiable desire for validation. At that moment, the identity of the one who gave faded into insignificance. I shared with him that there were times when I felt I was fading away within these walls, as though no one truly acknowledged my existence anymore. He reached out, his hand enveloping mine with a gentle touch, and I felt an undeniable urge to remain close. It was a sensation that seemed to arise from the depths of our being, wrapped in a profound stillness, as though we had arrived at this moment not by our own choice, but by the undeniable force of destiny. His touch was tender. It was devoid of any assertiveness. It was tender and sincere. At long last, I sensed the warmth of recognition enveloping me. His gaze went beyond simple observation, resting on me with a depth that hinted at profound thoughts and unvoiced sentiments. They enveloped me, filling the emptiness that my husband had departed from long ago. He crept closer. I should have stepped in. I did not. Our lips connected, soft and leisurely. The kiss resonated deeply, expressing feelings that words alone could never encapsulate. It unfolded with a sense of calm and deliberation. It was deep, overflowing with the emotions we had kept hidden for so long. As it came to an end, we remained in quietude, each of us keenly conscious that we had crossed a threshold that could never be undone. I stood from my chair, announced my decision to retire for the evening, and made my exit, leaving him enveloped in quietude. Yet sleep remained just out of reach. My heart raced with intensity. My thoughts swirled in a tumultuous ballet. I felt a sharp awareness of the transgression that existed between us. It elevated beyond the simple gesture of a kiss. It was a betrayal, not just by my husband, but by everything I thought I stood for, and yet, a shard of my essence lingered, untainted by remorse. A part of my essence awakened, acknowledged, and tenderly embraced in a way I had long since ceased to believe could be real. Language eluded me. I felt no inclination to proceed with that. Still, I felt a profound awareness that everything had shifted beyond repair. A profound change awakened inside me, an essence I could never reclaim. The next morning, I consciously avoided meeting anyone's gaze. I moved through the kitchen with an air of calm, as though everything was perfectly in order. Yet an unmistakable change hung in the atmosphere. Logan sauntered into the room, exuding an effortless coolness, but I could feel a subtle change in his presence. Poised, confident, as though he had crossed an invisible line, unburdened by any remorse. He offered his help with the breakfast preparations. I tilted my head, my eyes wandering to a distant point. The unvoiced strain that hung in the air between us was tangible, an undeniable presence that demanded attention. We decided to keep our lips sealed regarding the kiss. Neither of us spoke of it, yet it hung in the air, a secret too palpable to ignore. I continually comforted myself with the notion that it was simply a momentary lapse, a delicate error in judgment. As his hand brushed against mine again, I held my ground, feeling the warmth of his presence as he leaned in just behind me to reach for a plate. A reflexive reaction surged through me. Inside me, shame and excitement collided with the force of thunderous waves. Later that day, I caught him watching me, not in a casual manner, but with an intent gaze that held my attention. His gaze pierced through me, analyzing my features, my gestures, each nuance as though it carried weight. Years had passed since I felt such an enchanting intensity, not from my husband nor from any other soul. It was an error. Though I recognized the truth, I discovered an irresistible pull toward the desire for more. Logan discovered he was spending more time enveloped in the warmth of his home than in the lively presence of his friends. He wove together excuses to stay near, beckoning me to cozy movie nights, sharing errands, and enjoying leisurely strolls. Our conversations deepened significantly. He asked about my formative years, my dreams, and the sacrifices I had endured over time. I began to grasp the depth of my own concealment, hidden away in the shadows of a marriage that provided me with no mutuality. I took the initiative to set clear boundaries. I conveyed to him that this could not continue, that it was dangerous and reckless. He took in the words, responded with a nod of understanding, and even extended an apology. In that fleeting instant, he found me alone, and with a soft murmur, he revealed that I lingered in his mind unceasingly. He maintained that I deserved far more than to be forsaken by a man who stayed unaware of my sorrow as I slipped into slumber. Every word cut through the essence of my existence, stitching together the tattered seams of my spirit. One evening, he tenderly brushed my cheek and murmured, "You need not continue the charade. It is acceptable to welcome your feelings once again." I opted to remain silent. I deemed it superfluous. The look I directed towards him spoke volumes. The threshold of feeling had been irreversibly crossed. The occurrences that transpired were completely unforeseen. It was inevitable. I discovered an unfamiliar figure staring back at me from my own reflection. I discovered a woman ensnared in the tumult of guilt and desire, navigating the delicate line between loyalty and an unquenchable thirst for affection. I comforted myself with the knowledge that I was still in control, that I had the power to stop this before it unraveled completely. Nevertheless, the truth was that I had already given in, and yet I was tormented by the looming consequences, not just of being found out, but of the unavoidable moment when he would leave again, when his brief reprieve would end, and I would once again be alone in this house. As he takes his leave, will he accept this version of me, or will I be left to pick up the pieces again? This moment, a product of an irrevocable mistake, signified the end of Aiden's respite, and the weight of our choices began to press down upon us both with increasing intensity. In his quiet moments, it became clear. His eyes conveyed a depth of meaning, while his lips held silence. The heaviness of our silence appeared to grow, bearing down on us with an unsaid fervor. Overcome by a wave of guilt, he started to gather his possessions, the closeness of the moment fading into the background. As I meticulously folded each shirt, I felt the fragile pieces of my world disintegrating around me. We had undeniably traversed a boundary. Yet what awaits us in the future? We seldom speak of what awaits us in the future. He offered no assurances, and I held back from asking. I pursued no delusions. I had lingered in this state for far too long, wrapped in a false sense of security, beside a husband who barely recognized my existence. Yet this was unlike any experience that had come before. It was raw, passionate, and misdirected, yet undeniably genuine. And now, it is time for this chapter to draw to a close. As the night before his departure unfolded, he drew near, a glimmer of doubt dancing in his eyes for the first time since this journey commenced. He did not reach out to take my hand. He looked at me, his expression hinting at thoughts that danced just beyond the reach of his lips, lingering in silence. I hold no regrets at all. His voice was gentle, but I find no inclination to disturb your existence. Either did I nodded, rendered speechless, my throat tight with unspoken words. Uncertainty wrapped around me, a delicate dance between the sharp ache of heartbreak and the gentle murmur of relief. As he left the next morning, I stood by the door, much like a bystander watching someone walk away from her life without even a goodbye, without goodbyes, without promises, just a moment cut short. The dwelling returned to its quietude, but an undeniable chill hung in the atmosphere. As the days drifted away, my husband returned, appearing as if he had been untouched by the relentless march of time. He came back bearing souvenirs, weaving stories from conferences and sharing accounts of business negotiations amid the dinner chatter. He stayed unaware of my intentional avoidance of his eyes. He was unaware of the void that had settled deep inside me, that I had given myself entirely to another, both in body and spirit, yet the truth remained clear solely to my eyes. At first, I thought guilt would consume me, but instead, I was overwhelmed by a deep sorrow, not just for what I had done, but for the many years I had lingered in the shadows, feeling invisible. The betrayal reached far beyond a simple kiss or a momentary caress. That fleeting moment of realization, an unexpected individual, seemingly inconsequential, grasped my essence with a depth of understanding in a mere week that my husband had failed to achieve over the years. Logan conveyed a succinct note: "Take care of yourself." For hours, I was captivated by it, pondering every nuance until I finally gathered the courage to obliterate. I recognized that we could not continue, and I was also acutely aware that revisiting the past was not a possibility. I had undergone a metamorphosis, and that change was permanent. In the end, I discovered that my marriage, while seemingly complete on the surface, was profoundly empty at its core. I passed my days in the company of a man who held steadfast to the notion that everything was as it should be. As I carried the weight of choices that could not be undone, I realized I was powerless to retrieve what had slipped away. Perhaps the genuine consequence resides not in the moment of revelation, but in bearing the heavy burden of the silence that ensues. I found that love without attention turns into a simple routine, whereas attention without commitment becomes nothing more than a fleeting desire. Amidst the chaos, I lost a piece of myself that remains eternally out of grasp.